Okay. All right. Be'ezat Hashem, Bruchim Habayim. Welcome to Kollel, Baruch, Ahavat Israel. Tonight we have a very special class, the timeline of the Jewish people from day one, meaning that creation, the first day of creation until today. According to the Jewish count, we have 5,785 years today. Not billions, not millions, not 10 millions. Although, just so you know, there were other worlds before this world. Okay? So, you know, the Torah will tell us, Bereshit bara Elohim, right? God created the world. It started on the 25th of the month of Elul, year 0. 6 days creation. Then Adam and Chava was born. That was Aleph Betishrei, Rosh Hashanah. You know, Bereshit is the words Aleph Betishrei, if you rearrange the letters, right? Mm-hmm. And it says, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, right? Please, I want to dedicate this class before we continue to Be'ezat Hashem. I want to say refuah shlema to many people that needs refuah. But first, our friend Yosef, Be'ezat Hashem Atzadik, Yosef, Be'ezat Hashem Ben Simcha Halevi, refuah shlema to Guy Ben Talia Vetzachi, Be'ezat Hashem, refuah shlema to Rabbi Yaakov Hillel Ben Gladys, Eden Bat Michal, Guy Ben Talia, Asaf Ben Rachel, Efrat Bat Esther, and Be'ezat Hashem Baruch Chai Ben Chaya Miriam, Zehavit Batova, and all the people that need, and Hatzlacha to our soldiers, and bringing back all our hostages, Be'ezat Hashem. Chaya Bat Israel, refuah shlema, Be'ezat Hashem. Anybody else for refuah shlema? For health?
Yaron Ben Daniel.
Yaron Ben Daniel. Be'ezat Chana Bat Masuda.
David Ben Shirin.
David Ben
Shirin.
Shirin.
How do I, is it my dad or my?
You can do your dad.
Ben or Bob?
Ben. Yes.
Ben Michael?
Roman Ben Michael.
Roman Ben Michael.
Yes. Roman Ben Michael. Be'ezat Hashem, refuah shlema. And your brother Paul.
And Steve Ben Stefan.
Steve Ben Stefan.
And Paul Ben Roman.
And Paul Ben Roman. And a special welcome to Henry. Refuah shlema to you, my dear friend Henry, and to your wife, Be'ezat Hashem. Be'ezat Hashem, Henry, to his wife Malka Batsivia, Aharon Ben Masuda. Esther Bat Yael. And again, we want to say thank you to partners in Torah, our partners and sponsor for this class. And again, starting with what we call beginning. The Bereshit. Bereshit, by the way, the word Bereshit means in the beginning, not Genesis. Genesis is English is not a language that's anything but collaboration of stupid words, right? And I said that in one sense. For an example, you have chicken wings, right? What they call them? Buffalo wing. There's no buffalo. It's chicken, right? Right?
Respectfully,
For an example.
Rabbi, you know why they're called that, though, respectfully.
No.
They're called that because they started in Buffalo, New York.
Yes.
That's why they're called buffalo wings. It's not.
Yeah, but if you look at word, I'm being facetious because English actually is one of the most languages that was agreed upon terms. It's not really a language that came from anything. Like you said, knife, right? Well, what do you need a K in a knife? Well, I don't know. Or there's like millions of those words that make no sense, right?
The spelling makes absolutely no sense.
But there is one language that started in the world. The Hebrew started, from God. When God gave the world, it started with Hebrew. The Torah is written in Hebrew. Anochi Hashem. That's the 10 Commandments. But he started with Bereshit. It was Hebrew. Later on, after the what we call the Tower of Babel, then 70 languages came to the world. Okay? I'm going to go on a quick random timeline of the Jewish people. So first and foremost, as we know, we have Adam and Eve and the whole era of Adam and Eve. That was 1,000 years. Adam lived 930 years. Originally, he was supposed to live 1,000 years, but because he sinned, originally he was not supposed to die. Because he sinned, the limit was 1,000. He gave 7 years of his life to King David. Okay? And after Adam and Eve, we know that we have what we call our patriarchs, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Then we have our mothers together with them. Abraham was born in 1948 to the Jewish count, right? Before him, Noah was in the 1500. And of course, after Noah came Abraham, which is the 10 generation from Adam to Noah, 10 generation from Noah to Abraham, and 6 generation from Abraham to Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, 26 generation until receiving the Torah. So as we know, we have the patriarchs. So this is also the time of Egypt and Canaanites. Then we have the judges. Moshe Rabbeinu, as we know, came after, he was born. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he came to the world, he actually came to in year, tell you a second so we don't make any mistakes. Moshe Rabbeinu was born in 2236. And we see that after Moshe Rabbeinu, as we know, lived 120 years. He was 40 years in Egypt, 40 years with Midian, with his father-in-law, Jethro, and then 40 years in the desert with the people of Israel. The coming out of Egypt was at the year 2148 to the Jewish count, 2448.
Can you repeat that?
2448 to the Jewish count. 40 years in the desert, 240, 88. That's when they come to Israel. This is Joshua time, okay? After Joshua, we know we have the judges. Just so you know, originally, there was supposed to be only 5 books of Torah, right? Shalom Aleichem, God. Thank you. 5 books of Torah, we have, the 5 books of Torah. Then we have, because of the sin of the golden calf and the people of Israel 40 years in the desert, we have the book of Joshua. Joshua was the one that entered the people of Israel, right, at 2488 to the Jewish count. And we have, after Joshua, we have the judges. You heard of all the judges, as we know. We have the judges, and then after that, we have the kings and the prophets. 480 years after the people of Israel came to Israel, the first temple was built by King Solomon. That was 480 years for the tabernacle to be. It was 39 years in the desert and 441 years in Israel. Combined 480 years. Then King Solomon became a king after his father David HaMelech passed away when he was 70. He became a king when he was 12. Okay? And he ruled for 40 years. Hence, he died when he was 52 years old. The first temple of King Solomon stood up for 410 years. Then it was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar. Right? Nebuchadnezzar, by the way, was the great-grandson of King Solomon. Okay? Then they went to 70 years of exile in Babylonian. There were 52 years, and then 18 years in Persia, Achashverosh and Esther and all that, okay? And immediately thereafter, we have what we call the Knesset HaGdolah. You heard of the Knesset HaGdolah? There's 120 members, not like we have today in the Knesset in Israel, but the Knesset HaGdolah was 80 Kohanim and 40 prophets. Yes. And Knesset HaGdolah, after that, we have, by the way, that's the beginning also of Greece. The Greeks, the Antiochus, there were 6 of them. Originally, just so you know, there was one king that ruled the whole world. 10 kings ruled the whole world, but one of them was Alexander the Great. And when he died, 4 generals basically took his kingship and took it apart. One of them was the Greeks, the Assyrian, the Egyptian, and the Roman later on. But for now, this is the time of Greece and the Knesset HaGdolah. And then we have what we call Zugot, the pairs. There were Rabbanim, that's called the pairs. Then after that, we have the Tanaim. We're talking about 3,761 years to the Jewish count, okay? From all this period now, from Adam until what we call the Tanaim, there is 3,700 years and 61 to be exact. The Tanaim, as we know, there are many of them. Many Tanaim are the very, very smart people that lived basically with almost the end of the destruction of the second temple.
So they're more important than the Amoraim?
Yes. So Tanaim wrote the Mishnayot. When you read the Mishnah, every Mishnah you read today, they're from the Tanaim, 4,192 Mishnayot. They wrote it about 2,000 years ago. And of course, the Tanaim we have, I'll give you an example of who they are. we have what we call the Dor Rishon, the first generation, Shimon HaTzadik. You heard of Shimon HaTzadik? He was one of the Kohanim Gedolim, and then Rabbi Dosa ben Hurkenus. We know Shimon HaTzadik, by the way, he's the one that convinced Alexander the Great not to destroy the temple. And he said, we'll reward you with naming our children Alexander from now on. That's why we have men Alexander and girls Alexandra or Alex. It comes from that. And that was the first generation. The second generation is Antigonus Isuko, Rabbi Elazar ben Harshom. You know, when you read the Pirkei Avot, right? One of the first tractate that we all should learn, very important, the tractates of our fathers is really the essence of how to become a good Jewish person. You know, it's really our fathers are the Tanaim teach you what's the best way to be and how to be. And we know in Pirkei Avot, there is 6 chapters, and most of them wrote by the Tanaim. The third generation was Rabbi Yossi ben Yoazar, Ish Tzreda, Yosef ben Yochanan. Then the fourth generation. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you know, four angels: Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, and Uriel. Gemara, right? Gemara also is Gamar Aleph. You finish, go to the beginning. It takes 7.5 years to learn Daf Yomi, right? If you learn the Gemara, it takes 7.5 years. If you do a page a day, many Rabbanim do it in 1 year. Some of them in 3 months. Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, Zichron Livracha, used to do every year 7 siyumim from Pesach to Pesach. 7, you know, the Baba Sali, many big Rabbanim. So the 63 tractates is the Gemara that basically gives you everything that you need to know about the laws, right? So those are the Amoraim.
Gemara and Talmud is the same thing.
It's the same thing.
So what is Talmud, Bavli, Yerushalmi?
Beautiful. So there was two Gemara. There was first the Talmud Yerushalmi. You heard of the Talmud Yerushalmi? The Gemara from Jerusalem?
Yeah.
It was not from Jerusalem. It's from Tiberias. It was written in Tiberias before the Babylonian Talmud. If you look at the Yerushalmi, it's very, very concise, not a lot of argument. They were the Rabbanim of Israel. Whenever you see in the Gemara the word Rav and Rabbi, right? You see Rav. What's Rav? Is Rav Bavel. It's come from outside of the land of Israel, from Bavel, meaning the Gemara of Bavel, the Bavli. And when you say Rabbi, is Rabbi ben Israel, is in Israel. Okay? So now the Amorites, this is again, we're talking about the Amorite war right after the Tanaim, about 1600 years ago. And of course, then after that, we have the Savoraim. The Savoraim, they come after the Amorite. And again, they also come from the word Sevara. They explain more of the Talmud and everything. Then we have the Geonim, the giants. Geonim that were so, big that, they knew everything back and forth by heart. Imagine there's one Gaon, the Gaon from Vilna, for an example. They can read the Torah backwards. 304,805 letters backwards by memory, right? And then after the Geonim, we have the Rishonim. Rishonim were rabbis that actually, the time of Rashi, for an example, Rashi was a French amazing rabbi that, his father, the story of Rashi. So Rashi, his father was a merchant of diamonds. And at the time, the ruler says, I want the biggest diamond. I want to make a statue of myself. So people come from the shore. They see the diamond in my head. So everybody bow to me and everybody this. I'll be the light. Like, the concept of Tower of Light by the beach that you see, the Migdalor. And so Rashi, father, had an amazing stone. And somebody told, he has a stone. And he said, no, this Avodah Zarah. He went and threw it in the ocean. Rashi did not want to give the stone to be used as, Avodah Zarah, an idol worshiping. And from the heavens, they said to him, you'll have a son that will shine so much light on the world. Rashi was born. And Rashi, basically, without him, will not understand anything today. Everywhere you go, for an example, in the Gemara, they have everything on the inside is Rashi. On every page, on the inside, okay? On the right side, you have Tosfot, okay? And here you have so many explanations of many rabbis, okay? But Rashi is always, also in the Torah, if you have every Rashi, in the Gemara, in the Shulchan Aruch. So we have after the Rishonim, we have the Achronim. By the way, in the time of Achronim, according to the world, we have what we call the French Revolution. We have the First World War, which is in 1914, the Second World War in 1939, the Holocaust, and all the way to 1948 in Israel. Why 1948? Out of all years,
Abraham was born.
Abraham was born in 1948. And we received back Israel in 1948 because that's what Hashem promised him when he was born. And Abraham Avinu was the essence of starting of the Hebrew. Abraham is, Ivri. He was not Jewish yet. Who was the first Jew in the world? You told me, God. Remember? The first Jew in the world. No. It was Hebrew. No. All of us in Mount Sinai. The moment start giving, Hashem gave the Ten Commandments, we became Jewish. Because before that, if you see, it doesn't say Jewish in the Torah. It says Ivrim, right? Hebrew. Right? Bnei Israel. Every time you see in the Torah, Am, the word Am or Amcha is not the Hebrews. It's the Erev Rav. It's the people that joined the people of Israel when they left Egypt. Like Moshe, Hashem was telling him after 40 days, go down, your people sinned, Amcha, not Bnei Israel, not Ami. The people of Israel called Bnei Israel, right? So now that we have this understanding, okay, by the way, I can send this to all of you as a wonderful chart that has everything from A to Z. There's a dear friend of mine from Odyssey. You can look it up, odyssey.com, Ronen, Rabinowitz. We put this together. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. It's one of the most, I don't know how to say it in a kind words, but it's very, very good. So, all right. So we're going to go now with world history and the Jewish people. Are there any question until now? No? Okay. That means I'm not doing a good job. Yes? All right. So we are now at 5,785 to the Jewish count. The Gemara says something interesting. In Masechet Sanhedrin, by the way, the Gemara is the oral Torah. Right? Moshe kibel Torah misinai. Moshe received Kabbalah first. Kibel is Kabbalah, the secrets of all the Torah. Right? Then Musara, Moshe kibel Torah misinai, kibel and the Torah. The oral, the secrets of the Torah, the Zohar, the Kabbalah, and the Torah at once. And Musara, they gave the Musar, that's the oral Torah to Joshua to the Zekenim Nevi'im, and so on and so forth. This world is our world that we exist in it today, 5,785 years. The Gemara says in Masechet Sanhedrin, which is this time to learn, that the God created 1,000 worlds before this world and destroyed them. 1 Aleph, by the way, the letter Aleph is Aleph, 1,000. Right? That's why Hashem never started with Aleph in the Torah. Yes, sir.
We talked earlier, Rabbi,
Yep.
about the start, and that there was prior to this. Why is that not really spoken about?
So it is.
Okay, so we understand that Adam and Eve were the first, but that's not even true because that Lilith was in there.
No. So Adam and Eve was the first in this world. Originally, they were not skin. They were not human. They were light.
They were transparent.
They were transparent. The Gemara says that Adam, when he was erected, Hashem basically started on Friday morning to build him. Hashem took land, earth, from every part of the world, but the head was from Jerusalem, right? There's the 9 hours of creation. By the 9th hour, as we know, Adam and Eve were already were commanded not to God gave only 2 mitzvot. Originally, Adam and Eve and all of us were supposed to live in Gan Eden, not to die. It says, eat from everything else, but don't eat from the tree of knowledge. Technically, we all should have 2 mitzvot. But because they sinned, we got the Torah. Torah and Gematria 611 plus 2 mitzvot 613. Right?
But I'm sorry, quick question.
Yes.
Isn't the Torah was 900 years
74
before?
generation before. Yes, exactly. Right. So the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat.
So the Torah was there before even they did.
Before. But one person was able to bring it to earth. Moshe Rabbeinu. The 1,000 world that was destroyed was this time of the 974 generation before this world. Yes, sir.
why God created 1,000 words? They didn't come good? Or
That-
there's
no,
another
so
reason?
there is one thing God always gave his choice. He wanted to give the Torah. You choose, yes or no.
They said no.
They didn't want. No, none of the. It says all the stars that we see in the galaxy today that's burnt, they used to be world before this world. When you look up to the heavens today, like you said, telescopes, you see stars that burnt, right? Those used to be world. Just in our Milky Way, we are in a very small particle of the universe. In the Milky Way, all the world that was before exist. Those are all the burnt, world. Yes, sir.
So, Rabbi, when they talk about scientists, 'cause scientists are very suspect at best because we know that there's a lot of evil within science.
Yes.
When they talk about how dinosaurs are millions of years old, where does that come from?
Ah, beautiful. So I'm going to give you a little story. You heard of Noah's flood?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So until Noah's flood, there were dinosaurs, right? It says in the Torah, "Ataninim agdolim." Until Noah, the world was one piece. We say Adam, when he rose, all the animals, they say, Adonai, he says, you are God. He said, no, Adonai Elohim, Adonai Elohim. God is, I'm not, I'm just Adam. But he was so tall, they said that he could take a cloud and put over his head and walk 7 steps on the whole world. Okay? That was before the sin, when it was light. Noah's flood came, broke the world into 7 pieces. Until that moment, dinosaurs exist. And we know actually one of them survived the flood. The Torah says, Re'em. Yes, so there was 2 things that were outside of the ark. If you remember, God says to Noah, bring everything to the ark. Everything will come to you except the kosher animal. You have to go get them, right? You have to get 10 sets. There is 7, you have to get, there's 10 kinds of kosher animal. You have to get 7 sets of them. When Noah's flood began, he noticed that there is a dinosaur holding on and a giant, Og, Melech HaBashan, holding on to the ark. And he said if Hashem wanted them dead, he would die like everybody. So he took care of them. He fed them for 11 months.
He fed
Og and the dinosaur. Okay? David HaMelech, it says that David HaMelech says that he went to sleep and the mountains started moving. It was a dinosaur. And he came out and the lion wanted to kill him. He fought the lion and killed it.
I have a note to mention here.
Yeah.
So we're saying that in the Mabul, in the flood, the earth broke into 7.
Yes, so I'm going to...
Science saying that it happened because Africa and America was connected.
Okay.
Science saying it took thousands of years.
All right, so let's first, every scientific assumption today is assumption, right? They assume, right? They don't know, right? So the world broke to 7 pieces. God brought rain for 40 days and 40 nights. 17, imagine the whole mountains of the world were 17 meters covered with water, right? Everything except Jerusalem. Jerusalem was the only place that never got flooded, okay? In the flood, the fish did not sin. The fish did not die.
The only one.
That's why the curse of Adam was Aruraha Adama. The earth is cursed, not the fish. That's why we don't do shchita on fish. Fish, you can eat sushi, right? You don't have to slaughter. Fish is the only blood you can drink.
Oh, you can eat.
Halachically, yes. Yes, if you're thirsty and there is no thing to drink and you have fish and you want to cook it and you drain it, you can drink. You can drink the blood of fish because it's not cursed. Many people know that. Halacha Shulchan Aruch. So back to the dinosaur. So when God, it says in the Torah that, the earth broke, and in the Gemara it says that God brought 2 kinds of water, the water from above and the water from below. Lava broke the world, hot, and the water from above. The Subaru, you heard of Subaru, the car? Yeah. Many people don't know, but the stars on the Subaru is Kochav Kima, is the stars in the Gemara that when Hashem moved one, there's one big one and 5 small one, right? If you look at that's the Subaru. This is called Kochav Kima. The Gemara says Hashem moved 1 star, the water drained into the earth. All the dinosaur bones drain into the earth. That's why we find dinosaur today in LA, right? You have the pit, you have dinosaur in Utah, in Israel even. The Gemara says that two tzaddikim, Tanaim, like 2,000 years ago, discussing a case, walking through a carcass 300 yards, they noticed that they walked through a carcass of a dinosaur. Okay? So technically, now back to your scientist. We take 100 scientists, right? I give them a piece of a fossil. I said, tell me, how old is this fossil? Everybody has a different answer. That means 99% of them are wrong. One is correct, maybe. Right? Logically. Right? You have 100 answers. One of them is truth. 99 are not truth. Okay? Now, even this one is an estimate. It's a guesstimation. It's not real. So let's say we have 10,000, a million, 10 million, 5 million. I said to them, the piece I gave you, 3 years ago, there was a big thing in Hawaii. There's a cow that died and became a fossil with one day. Right? They did it in Duke University. A Jewish scientist.
Oh, really?
Yes. And he said that, in reality, to really prove that the Torah is right, because assumption is, everybody can assume anything. A doctor will tell you there's a process of elimination, right? You cannot really understand what's going on. Today, you bring the medicine to market, it goes through 10, 15 years until you know that it works, right? Unlike COVID vaccine, right? No, I'm kidding. But in reality, everything that a scientist, the Gemara said that, the Greeks were very smart, right? We know that a lot of wisdom. The Roman, they know how to do everything. They said there's only 6,000 stars in the world. That's all they said. Always claimed that the world is on top of a giant or three. If you look at encyclopedia, 50, 60 years, Atlas, you see the world was standing on 3 elephants. That was the assumption of the Romans and the Greeks, right? But in the Zohar said 2,000 years ago that the globe stands on just in midair, and there is gravity, and the people color skin affected by the weather. That's what the Zohar says 2,000 years ago. Where there's more suns, you'll be more skin, dark skin. Where there's light, you'll be like the Swedish, blonde. According to the climate. Aklim in Hebrew is Elokim. Okay? So now it says, that's answer your question? Yes.
It does. But something directly related to that.
Okay.
Which is this, Rabbi. So when the Greeks came and they had their civilization that came up equally with the Romans, because the Greeks and the Romans were up at the same time.
No, the Romans came after.
They did come after.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So then the question is, who are these gods that they're all talking about? Were they demons?
So here's the thing. There's something the Gemara says. The oral Torah says that God created purity and impurity always to exist in the world. Evil and good, right?
Yes.
You have fire and water. You have a lot of elements that doesn't work together. Except when God gave the 10 Commandments, they all work together. There was fire, water, earth, wind, you name it, right? All the 50 technology that we know today existed in Mount Sinai, right? We have the iClouds, we have YouTube, we have Hashem showed you the video, right? Everything in the oracle, oracle in Hebrew is or and kol, right? Light and sound. The only two today that we can take these two kind of powerful speeds and combine them, right? Today, if you take the speed of light and the speed of sound, you combine them, it's ultrasound, right? Ultra and sound, or and light, right? That's how they check. That's the only energy that doesn't have any radiation, right? But let's continue. So we said 1948, Abraham Avinu was born. After we said 20 generation. And then after that, we have Yaakov. Yitzchak Avinu was born in 2048. 2048, that's when Hashem promised Abraham, your children will go to, not Egypt, it doesn't say, in Brit Ben Abetarim, when Abraham Avinu was 70 years old, God says to him, your children will be slave for 400 years. 30 plus he was 70. So by 100, he got Yitzchak, right? Yitzchak was born when he was 100. The birth of Yitzchak, as we say, Yitzchak in Hebrew is laughter, right? That's why there's a lot of Jewish comedians. No, but Yitzchak is really Yatzachok, is above nature, right? His mother had no womb. Sarah gave her birth. She was 90 years old, right? His father, Abraham, 100 years old. And he promised him that 400 years from now, will be 2048. Yitzchak was born, right? From the time of Yitzchak until they came out of Egypt was exactly 400 years. Yitzchak was born on Pesach, Erev Pesach, the Tedvav, the 15th of Nisan, and we came out of Egypt on the 15th of Nisan,
So
2448.
the count started when Yitzchak was born.
Yes, but originally started 430 years from
Wow.
from the Brit Ben Abetarim, from the covenant with Abraham, and then Abraham, Yitzchak was born, as we said, 2048 to the Jewish count, and then we have Yaakov. Yaakov was born 2108 to the Jewish count, and then Yaakov went down to Egypt when he was how old? 130. That was the year 2238 to the Jewish count. How long he lived with Yosef? 17 years. Yaakov considered his life 34 years. 17 when Yosef was with him as a kid, and 17 was with him as a king. Right? It says, Ele toldot Yaakov, they separate the 100 from the 40 and for the 7. Like with Sarah, same thing. Sarah only believed that she was alive when she had Yitzchak. Right? Ele chaye Sarah. Yitzchak was born, and only when she had Yitzchak, she felt alive. She didn't feel alive when she had no children, let alone raising Ishmael in her house, right? But Hagar, as we know, Hagar was the daughter of Pharaoh. He gave Hagar as a servant to Sarah, right? Hagar in Gematria is 208. She gave Hagar and she said, maybe I'll benefit from her. She got Yitzchak, is 208 in Gematria. Hagar and Yitzchak, you give. The Torah is all codes, right? So then we continue to that. Then we have Yetziat Mitzrayim. As we said, Moshe Rabbeinu is coming 2448. He was 40 years old. Moshe Rabbeinu, he was 40 years old when he left, and he became 80 years old to take them out. Okay, Moshe Rabbeinu was 80 years old when he took the people out of Israel.
So he was 4 years in Midian?
It was 40 years in Midian. Yes. It says when Yitro, we just read Parashat Yitro last week, it says when Yitro comes to him, Ani chotencha Yitro. Yitro comes to him and says, I'm your father-in-law. Moshe says, really? I lived with you. I know you for almost 80 years. Moshe was brought to Egypt when he was 3 years old. Yitro was the advisor to Pharaoh. Yitro heard that Pharaoh and Bilam want to take out all the boys and throw them to the ocean, to the river and die. He left. He became the Kohen Midian. He was rewarded. He has a parasha in his name. Right? This is 10 commandments. Yitro basically comes and says, I'm your brother. Ani chotancha. Yitro, achi, in acronym. I am your father-in-law. Ani chotancha Yitro. The Zohar says, I was Cain, you were Hevel, I killed you. I'm bringing you now the sister that I took from you. Hevel had 2 sisters, Cain had 1. He was jealous. Adam and Eve had 5 kids, not 2. Each son, Cain has 1 daughter, twin, and Hevel had triplets. And he killed him, and he took Tzipporah, was the daughter, the sister, and the wife of Hevel. So he brought him back. He said, here, I'm returning. We're doing tshuva together now. That's why he became the Kohen Gadol Choten Moshe, right? And of course, Hashem gave him a parasha in his name. They say, why they don't give Moshe a parasha?
I know why.
Why?
Because all the Torah is Moshe.
Torah Moshe. We have Sarah, we have Pinchas, we have Balak. Why do we have Goyim have Torah on them? Bilam, you have, Balak and Yitro. Originally, Yitro was a Goy. It was like the Pope of today. Imagine the Pope today says, I'm sorry, we all need to be Jewish. We made a mistake. We live right now, in this essence of Christianity. No such thing. It's all BS. We made a mistake. Yitro converted hundreds of thousands of people, Midianites. Midian is the word dinim, right? Dinim is laws. He helped Moshe create the whole system of courts. Right. Today, we use the courts according to him. Right? You have a small court, 3 people, 21 people, 71 people, 120 people. That's all from Yitro. Yoter, he added. Yitro also viter. He gave up his religion and became Jewish. Right? By the way, Yitro lived in the land of Israel until Bet HaMikdash was born. In Jericho. You know Jericho? Yeah. You know why Jericho called Jericho? Jericho. Why? Jericho is Yud Recho. They smell the essence of Jerusalem all the way to Jericho. Ken, Yerushalayim Recho. When they do every day, Kohen Gadol will do the incense, right? Yes. Oh. The smell of the Ktoret, it reaches Jericho.
How far it is?
It's about 38 kilometers. Smell the
25.
ketoret. They say when the Levites and the Kohanim used to make the ketoret, they used to make 1,600 kilos every 6 months. And they take, maneh. There has 2 right every day in the morning and the evening, and 3 in the Yom Kippurim. 350, we have the Pitum HaKetoret, and you could smell it all the way to Jericho. They said when there was a wedding in Jerusalem, the bride did not need to put any perfume. It doesn't matter. They won't smell her. They smell the Ketoret. It was such a smell. All right, so let's continue. So after 40 years, as we know, by the way, the 10th commandment was given only 50 days after the people of Israel left Egypt, right? The Omer, we count the Omer 49 days, and on the 50th, that was Vav Besivan. You read every Shabbat, you do Kiddush, right? What do you say, God? Yom Ha. So Yom HaShishi is actually the receiving of the 10th commandment, the 6th of Sivan. What happened? Vayachulu hashamayim va'aretz. All the heavens and the earth came together. Hashem came. Vayered Adonai, and Hashem came down to earth. They say Vayered is otiyot radio waves, right? The whole world heard and saw the voice. Lirot et hakolot, to be able to see, like I speak now. Do you see the letters in Hebrew? No, but then they could see, right? The 6th commandment has 620 letters. If you look at the 10 commandments, 620 letters. How many mitzvot do we have? 620. 613 plus 7 deoraita, right? The Rabbanan, I'm sorry. We have 613 from the Torah and 7 from the Rabbanim. As we said, we have 613 body parts. We have 248 organs and 365 ligaments. This is the mitzvot. We have 248 positive mitzvot, and we have 365 negative mitzvot. You shall not do. This to keep our body, you have to do mitzvot. When he says Shema Israel every morning, right? Shema, what's Shema? Shema, Shachrit, Mincha, Arvit. You have 3 prayers. Shema, you have to say 3 prayers. Shachrit, Mincha, Arvit. If you count, there's 248 words in the Shema. How many letters? 1,000. In a sense, when you read Shema, is for your organs. 248 words against your 248 organs. Okay? But you have to repeat the last 3. That's why we repeat. What do we say at the end? Adonai, Elohim, Emet. 248. All right, so let's continue. After 40 years, Joshua is coming. This year is 2,488 to the Jewish count. As we know, Yoshua, Hashem promised him, you'll win every war. There was 31 kings that he had to fight. Hashem says to him, the condition is you have to go to every war. One war he did not go. He sent just the general. They lost 36 people. Remember, every war, Joshua won. Nobody got even wounded. One war, the Eye. You heard of the Eye? Yeah. The Eye is a place where Joshua says, I'll send the general. 36 people died. By the way, Moshe and Joshua, as we know, Joshua was so humble. He was a servant of Moshe. Mm-hmm. Moshe was the servant of Hashem. The Torah says that why Hashem was able to bring this Torah to earth. Because the person Moshe, Avdi, he was a servant. Moshe Rabbeinu was so humble, Katuv in the Torah, Anav mikol adam. From everything I created today, all the 1,000 worlds before, and this world, 26 is the only one that was the most humble. Humble. In order to receive the Torah, you have to be humble. Sure. Right? You have to be, yes.
So I'm going to take this word down.
Sure.
So I understand. So we talked about the 1,000 worlds that were before. When we hear the word alien, what does that mean specifically? Are we talking demons? Are we talking...
So there's many explanations. So just so you know, the Hebrew, they call them Chayzar. Chayzar is Chayzar. We have 6 worlds under this world. There's aliens in it. Okay?
In our world.
In our world currently. This globe has 6 other worlds below. Okay? I did a class on it. I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
But it's basically, they come out from different locations. It's mentioned in the Gemara. Mm-hmm. But, when they went to, NASA went to the first time to the moon, they really never went to the moon, right? But when the first time, the technology today we have with an earbud is more the technology of spatial, you cannot go to the moon. Iran, you heard of our friends Iranian, they said, we're going to the sun. They said, we're going to the sun. The Ayatollah says, we're going to the sun. They said, what are you, crazy? He goes, you're going to burn. He said, no, we'll go at night. So there's aliens, there's everything, but it's in this world, okay? King Solomon says there's en chadash, there's nothing under the sun. Everything has been done, everything has been said, so on and so forth. So now Joshua, as we know, after Joshua, we have, as we call, everything that has to do with, when Joshua was 42 years old, when he came out of Egypt, he actually went to and fought everything from Amalek in Rephidim through the whole 31 kings. He was one of the two members of the spies that spoke good about Israel, right? Yoshua originally was Hoshea. They took, Sarai, Hashem changed her name to Sarah, took the Yud from her and gave it to Yoshua. Originally Hoshea, right? Why Yud? Because Yeshua was, as we say, Moroccan. It was crazy. He likes to fight. Anybody wants to do anything to Moshe, he's like, I'll kill you. Let me put him in jail, right? He always protected Moshe. Moshe says, no, I have to put the Yud in you to come down, so Hashem is with you, right? Caleb ben Yefuneh, the other guy. Caleb was so, Caleb, yeah, Caleb ben Yefuneh. He actually, the first thing when he came to Israel, he went to Ma'arat HaMachpelah. He went to the patriarchs to, pray. It's a mitzvah to go pray at the cemetery of big tzaddikim, righteous people, right? We have the Rabbi Melubavitch. I don't know if you know, but many people don't know that. Rabbi Melubavitch was one of the biggest rabbanim in the history of the world, The Baba Sali, Zichrono Livracha, there's every generation has 36 tzaddikim. The Baba Sali, they told him from heavens, we have one of the biggest tzaddik. Go visit him in America. So, they used to communicate by telepathy. And when he was speaking, his Gabbai used to write. So the Baba Sali said to the Rabbi Melubavitch, Zalman, Schneur, he says, I hear you one of the top 36 tzaddikim in the world. I want to come and live with you and study with you. So amazing. Melubavitch said to him, you are too. They were the two Mashiachim of their time, Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. He says, what I do here is just to keep America. What you do in Israel is to keep Israel in the world. Stay in Israel. There's a letter, I'll send it to you, I have it. That the Baba Sali writes to him. There's a written, and he answers him, he answer in this. Yes?
One thing, it's a little bit strange. How come he never went to Israel?
Very good. So,
Why?
so he asked me, so let me tell you what the story is. We have in our family a very big Chabad rabbi. They started the biggest Chabad in Israel. Before it was Chabad, like 50, 40 some years ago, outside of Haifa. Very big tzaddik. So once he met and he asked him the question, why didn't you go to Israel? He says, they told me from Shamayim not to leave America.
Oh, makes
Henry
sense.
has something to say.
Henry, please.
Makes sense.
No, it's the same thing.
Yeah, no, please. Yeah.
When you live in Israel, you cannot live back.
That's right. You cannot leave. Yeah. So they ask him to stay. They say, what you're doing in America, the Chabad of today is not the Chabad that used to be. I have to tell you, I work with many Chabad, a lot of great Chabad. Chabad used to be holy of holies in the old days. They were like, you cannot drive on Shabbat, you cannot do this, you have to be religious, you want to be here, that's fine, but respect, don't talk, don't drink, it used to be like that 30, 40 years ago. The Rabbi Melubavitch was one of the 36 tzaddikim of our generation before, he died. He's not the Mashiach. Mashiach has to be alive. There's no such thing as dead Mashiach.
Also, is it correct that they said that Mashiach need to have a son? I heard that Mashiach need to have a son.
No. So Mashiach will come. He doesn't know he's Mashiach. They said that the two Messiah will meet in the burial of Rachel Imenu. Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David will meet at the Kever Rachel. Now there is the Mashiach ben Yosef is here. The wars that's happening, he already knows. But nobody knows who's Mashiach ben David yet. We're very, very close to that.
Have to be like a religious person?
Of course, no, it has to be religious.
Because Moshe was a Mashiach and he wasn't religious.
Moshe was the Mashiach. He actually brought people out of slavery, right? Moshe
Right, but he
Rabbeinu.
was a simple guy. It wasn't.
It
like
wasn't simple. Moshe speaks to
Before,
Hashem.
no, before. He wasn't
No,
like
even
the rabbi.
no, even before. You know, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was a baby, right? When his mother put him in the Nile, right? Nilus means lowness, a miracle for Moshe, right? She put him in the Nile. She put him exactly when? On the 6th of Sivan. This is Matan Torah. This is the Ten Commandments. When Batya found him, it was the day of the Matan Torah. When they tried to gave him milk, he was a baby. It was 6 months years old when he was born. It was a preemie, just so you know. The Gemara says his mother could not hide him. He was born on the 7th of Adar, Zayin Be'adar. Exactly 3 months after is the 6th of Sivan. She put him in the water, in the Nile, right? And he said that when the Batya came to get him, she tried to give him milk from one of the Arab ladies. And a little bit touched his lips. Hashem had to burn it in order to purify it. You know, remember the coals, the story of the coal and the gold? That's why he became Arel Sfatayim. That's why he cannot speak well. He says in order to eliminate such thing, it has to be by fire, right? Yes, sir.
What was the stature of Moses? Because
Moses?
He did great things. Was he a giant?
Yeah, Moses, just so you know, was 5 meter tall. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, 5 meter tall. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
That's cool.
He says 20 amma. You know that when he killed the giants, Sichon and Og, he hit them in the ankle. That was his height.
Achilles heel.
Yes. Achilles heel. This is really Moshe Rabbeinu. Yaakov was just as tall. Yaakov, if you know, was so strong, he can defeat an angel. Not just an angel, the angel of death, Samael. The angel of Esav, Yaakov. Then when he comes to, he meet his wife at the bar, right? The Be'er, water, right? Bar, Be'er in Hebrew, same letters. Right? 50 people takes to move the stone. Come, Yaakov, move it like, you flip a cup of a beer, that's by himself. They were very strong. All right, so let's continue. So after that, as we know, after Joshua, we have, of course, the people of Israel build the temple. 440 years after, the whole Judges. By the way, the whole Judges stories, if you know, are shoftim, right? Judges, what happened? The people of Israel, in Israel now, they left Hashem. Boom, come the Hamas of the time, the Amalekites, the Philistines, you name it, all the 7 nations, killed them, kidnapped them, right? What we have today with Simchat Torah is to be 100 times. Not 100, but many times. And then Hashem sent them a judge, make tshuva, Hashem saves them. Back forward, like this, 440 years. Of course, King David becomes the king. Before him, there was Shaul. Shaul was the first king of Israel. Then we have, as we know, we have several kings, but the main 3 kings was Shaul, David, and Shlomo. Each one had 40 years, right? They represent really the 120 years of Moshe Rabbeinu, right? 40 years, Shaul was one very tall, by the way, very handsome, very strong. Shaul, it was the most very humble. Nichbay lakelim. You heard of the terms in Hebrew, Nichbay lakelim? It says this is in the book about Shaul. He was so humble. When his father sent him to go look for his mules, he found them, but at the same time, Shmuel, the prophet, the Navi Shmuel says to him, you'll be the king. And he actually took an oil of persimmon. There's 2 kinds of oil for kings. There's persimmon and there is oil from olive, shemen amishcha. Okay? For Shmuel, brought the oil to Shaul, he poured it on Shaul. Shaul became a king. He was so humble, he did not tell his father. He never heard his father's feeling until his father passed. Yes. And then 40 years, he became the king. Hashem says to him, kill Amalek. He didn't. He died. Right? As we know. The kingship moved from his house. Yonatan was supposed to be the king. Kingship goes from father to son. Unlike rabbis, right? Moshe Rabbeinu says, I want my kids to be me, replace me, Eliezer. Hashem says, no, not good enough. Joshua is better, right? But in a sense, Shaul removed because he did not listen to Hashem. King Shaul, Hashem says, Meched Zechar Amalek. You have to destroy all the Amalekites. Huh? And he didn't. He actually had mercy on the king of Amalek, and the girls and the boys and the little lambs and whatnot. Shmuel saw that. He says, "You're cursed." That night, by the way, a servant slept with Amalek. Back then, this will come Haman from him. So Shaul, 40 years gone. Came David. David became a king when Shaul was already a king already. King David, as we know, was king in Hebron for 7 years and 7 years in Hebron and 33 years in Jerusalem. Okay, you see Jerusalem today. That's King David. You know, when he designed the temple. By the way, he wanted to build the temple. Hashem says, "No, you have blood on your hands. Your son, as we know, Shlomo will build it." Shlomo, by the way, if you look at the letter, is very well Le Moshe. Is the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu. He says that, you know, he became 12 years old. His father died on Saturday. David HaMelech was born on Saturday and died on Saturday, right? By the way, David HaMelech is the only person that knew that he'll never die during the week. Because he asked Hashem, when I die, Hashem said, I cannot tell you. Please, Hashem, tell me. You know, he and Hashem, like Moshe and Hashem, spoke all the time. He wrote the 72 chapter of Tehillim. Was chased for 29 years and he writes songs. So Hashem says, I cannot tell you when, but I'll tell you, you'll be on Shabbat. So he says, let me die on Sunday. I don't want to do Chilul Shabbat. So no, Sunday your son will be a king. King and a king cannot be in the same day. So he died on Shabbat. And every week we have what we call Seudah Revi'it, right? The fourth meal of Motzei Shabbat is Seudat David HaMelech, Seudat HaMashiach, right? David guaranteed every Shabbat, if he was alive, he does a meal, I'm not going to die this week. Because he didn't die on Shabbat. This is the meal of King David.
Every three kings, how they killed him?
Satan, you know, he came to him and made some noise in the tree, was learning Torah. He stopped, took it. Shlomo became a king the next day, Sunday, 12 years old. Of course, they put on him the Shemen HaMishcha, same thing. By the way, with King David, the oil jumped from the horn to his head. Because, you know, David HaMelech had 7 brothers. And, you know, he came to Ishai, his father Shmuel says, you know, you have the king in your family here. So he brings in the first son, second, oh, beautiful, handsome, tall. The thing doesn't pour, the oil. He says, you must have another son. He said, how do you know? He said, because Hashem told me the king is from this house. He said, yeah, we have Admoni, has a redhead that we have, you know, in the field. They take care of that. Bring him. As they brought him, the oil jumped on King David's head. Yeah, Gingy. The Zohar says he was a triplet with Esav and Yaakov. Esav killed him in the stomach, in the womb. Yes. The Zohar says that actually his first neshama was with Esav and Yaakov at the womb of Rivka. Amazing. So let's continue. Now, King Solomon, 12 years old, Hashem come to him in Givon. Givon, by the way, where the tabernacle was in several places in Israel. One of them is the Mount of Givon. Hashem says to him, you are the king now. What do you want? 12 years old. So I just want to know how to judge the people correctly. 12 years old. Imagine you're the king now. Hashem says, because you only ask for that, I'll give you everything. You have the most money, you have the most gold, but don't do too much, not too many women. By the way, king can only have 18 wives. 18. And he's a king, so you're the second. That's it. Just so you know, a king, a halacha, can have up to 18 wives. King Solomon has 1,000 wives. There's 700 wives and 300 concubines. Pilegish.
How long did he live?
And he had only, and listen, and he had only 2 kids, a daughter and a son. That's it. David HaMelech, some say, the Gemara said he had 21 kids. Okay, from all these wives that he had 10 wives and, 8 wives and 10 concubines. You know the difference between a wife and pilegesh? In Hebrew, pilegesh means yesh peleg, there's something missing. Right? Yes. So a wife has 2, ketubah and kiddushin. The pilegesh doesn't have ketubah, only kiddushin. Okay, that's the difference. King David had 21 kids. In Masechet Sanhedrin, there is another page, I think in Lamed something. It says that he had 400 children, King David. Okay, but most it's 21 kids. Okay, so let's continue.
12 years old, had 100 kids.
Who? No, King Solomon had only 2 kids. Yes.
1,000 wives.
Okay, 1,000 wives. He just spread Torah. When King Solomon was a king, for 410 years, he was 40 years, but for 410 years, it was world peace.
Did you have 1,000 mother-in-laws?
You see? All right.
Be careful. Oh my God.
You know, one guy saw his mother-in-law drown in the Kinneret. She said, save your mother-in-law, she's drowning in the Kinneret. He says, Achki atachama. Achki atachama in Hebrew means until the Chama is the sun, but also mother-in-law sink. All right, it's a joke. All right, so let's continue. After that, we have, as we know, there was another guy named Ishbosheth, that he also was a king. He took the kingship to himself, and he was the son of Shaul, as we know, and he was anointed by Avner ben Ner. And then we have, and then as we know, King David, as we know, he bought Jerusalem. Just so you know, David bought Jerusalem. Abraham bought Me'arat HaMachpelah, and Jacob bought Nablus, Shechem, right? Until today, those are places of contention, right? You heard of Moshe Montefiore. You heard of Montefiore?
Yeah.
Beautiful Jewish man that made tshuva, became a knight in the kingship. They took him the first time to Israel, they took him to Kever Rachel. He said, I want to see the graves of Rachel. He saw that there was just, like the Torah says, Matzeva. He built the whole thing that we see there today. That's Moshe Montefiore. Built that, okay? Then he bought, there was Moroccan that bought outside of in 1938 all the way to 1800. Moroccan bought a lot of lands, Tel Aviv and Rishon, Petah Tikva, Mamila, outside of the wall. Montefiore bought from them and built the first 7 places outside of the walls. Okay, Shechem is Nablus. That's where Yosef is buried. Right, Yosef was stolen and thrown out to the pit and about to die. That was in Shechem. Emek Dotan is Shechem. Okay, just so you know. So that's why Yosef, he says, leave me in Egypt, like the Rabbi Zalman, Shneur Zalman, he says, leave me in America because I need to support the people here. When Mashiach comes, I'll be there, That's exactly what Yosef says. Let me be in Egypt until Mashiach comes. Moshe Rabbeinu will take me. That's what Moshe did, right? He took his bones that's why we have second Pesach. You said second Pesach. Moshe and the Levites were not pure. They hold the casket. So they said, well, we cannot do Pesach. Hashem gave Pesach Shenif. Exactly 30 days after Yudalet. Be'iyar is the second Passover. Right? It's because of that. Now, when my wife moved out of the chair, that means time to finish. But we'll do... I'm kidding. So, as we know now, as we say, Bet HaMikdash HaRishon was built 2,790 years old, meaning and 90 years to the Jewish count. That's considered 970 years before count, right? BC as they call it. And after that, we have, as we saw, the 10 tribes that were removed. Shlomo had one son. Originally, his second son died, right? The first son with King David had the one died that with בת-שבע. That name was, you know what the name of him?
Shalom.
Yedidia. You remember בת-שבע, David was Kivsat Arash, right? This is, David says to Hashem, I want to be part of, Bagen David. It says there is a Baruch Eloi Avraham, Eloi Yitzchak, Eloi Yaakov. He said, I want to have also Eloi David. Hashem says, no, you cannot stand by the test they passed. He said, test me, Hashem. He said, you're not going to pass. He said, test me anyway. So he tested him with בת-שבע, and he fell. Right?
Yeah.
The question is, by the way, the Gemara says he did not fail in a sin because בת-שבע was divorced already. Uriah Hittite, just so you know, David HaMelech gave him בת-שבע.
When he went to the war.
Yes, David HaMelech, בת-שבע was Shidduch from Bereshit. All of us already, because we're together, is from Bereshit. Right? Just so you know, it's not coincident with her. It's exactly what Hashem wants. Just hurry up so we can dance in your wedding, okay? I give good gifts, don't worry. All right, so let's continue. So you know that David HaMelech had a son, and the first son died. 7 days, he died. Yedidiah, they called him Yedidiah. They named Shlomo, King Solomon has 7 names. One of them is Yedidiah, Kollel. And she said to him, ask Hashem if you forgive us, I will not have other children. I don't want to, maybe we sinned. He said, no, you did not sin. Hashem says to him, Lemara'it ayin, you're a king. Should not do that, kind of thing. But anyway, she was divorced and it was okay. By the king and the law is okay. So we know that the Bet HaMikdash HaRishon stood for 410 years, and the 10 tribes were really in the beginning of the end of the first temple. King Solomon had a son, Rechavam, that was the king of Jerusalem, and Yeravam was the king of outside of Jerusalem. So the 10 and the 2 tribes were separated. By the way, Yeravam, just so you know, was giant of Torah. He knew 124 explanation on every word of the Torah. It was actually very big. He said he had pride. He said, I should be. And he actually blocked Jerusalem and put 2 golden calves in the temple that he built before Jerusalem. So nobody goes to Jerusalem. Everybody comes to me. 10 tribes he took out. Those 10 tribes are gone today, right? The Gemara said they're hidden. Where? There is a river. Remember God? Sambantion. There is a river called Sambantion.
The one with the rocks?
Yes. So Sambantion, this is the Gemara talking about it 1700 years ago. They just found it 5 years ago. It's a river. The Gemara says that all week you have rocks going down it. On Shabbat, water.
Where did they find it?
In outside of Russia and India and yeah, I'll send you a video.
I think you sent it to me.
I send it to you, right? I put it in the group. I'll send it to you. So it's called Simbantion. It said the tribes are hidden behind. That's the way a lot of Asia will come from there. Russia and Asia, India, huh?
Did you send it to all of it?
Yes, I did in the group. I'll send it again. So they found it 5 years ago. All week is rocks. On Shabbat is water. This is the Gemara says 1700 years ago, 1600 years. So they found it 5 years ago. There's a YouTube. I'll send it to you. All right. So we said the first temple destroyed after 410 years. And then we have, of course, what we call Chorban Mamluchut Israel. Then, we have the Navi Yeshayahu. You heard of Yeshayahu? Who's Yeshayahu? Many people call Eliyahu Navi Elijah, right? Elisha is Elijah. It's not Eliyahu. It's mixing. So we have the prophet 3,003 years, okay? Then we have the destruction of Galut Ashur. As we know, we come out from, the Greeks come to rule Israel, Tarbut Yavan. They rule basically from starting at 3027 to the Jewish count. And then we have the wars between what we call Judea and the Greeks, right? Yehuda, as we know, Yehuda was what we call Shomron and Yehuda. That was the tribe of Judah, was in Samaria of today. It's Israel, of course, needless to say. And they would fight in what we call in 3059. There was the Melech Sargon Hasheni. When he was very rude, he was part of the Greeks and the Assyrian. And the people of Judah fought with him, and almost 200,000 people came to fight Israel. That was the King Chizkiyahu. You heard of the King Chizkiyahu? Chizkiyahu was very righteous king. In his generation, every child knew all the Mishnayot by heart. One came, Sancherib, to destroy Israel. Sancherib, by the way, is grandson of King Solomon from Shiva, right? Queen Shiva.
I think made everyone go to Beit Midrash.
Everybody has to go to Bet Midrash. There was no public school. All Bet Midrash. Everyone. Father, sons, everyone. Mother had to learn everything. He was one of the best kings of Israel. Chizkiyahu, Hashem sent Sancherib now. Sancherib comes. Sancherib had 21 million soldiers. He was one of the 10 kings of the world. He bring 185,000 officers surrounding the walls. The walls of Jerusalem is what Shlomo and David built, right? Okay. He put 185,000 officers. Chizkiyahu says to Hashem, excuse me, I'm a rabbi, I don't know how to fight. I'm going to sleep. You take care of it. Chizkiah go to sleep, they wake up in the morning, all of them are dead. 185,000 in one night. The angel said the Gabriel killed all of them. In one night, not even one arrow, one bullet, one drone, nothing, not one tank, nothing.
Why?
When he went to sleep, he wasn't.
That's it. He said, Hashem, Hashem,
Take care of it.
you know, the prophet came to him and says, you're going to die. Chizkiah. He says, why? He says, because you never got married. He says, yeah, I saw in Ruach HaKodesh, I had a prophecy that I have very bad sons. Menashe, one of the worst king in the history of Israel, from him, 57 years. Menashe, by the way, is one of the 4 people that will never go to heaven. No, it's a different. This is here. This is Chizkiah's. The prophet says to him, you know, you're going to die. He was so sick. And Hashem, he said, if you marry, Hashem will I'll say, okay, he gets to the prophet, give me your daughter. The prophet said, no, why don't you give me your daughter? He said, well, you say I have to get married. So the prophet asked Hashem. Hashem said, yeah, give him your daughter. He married the prophet's daughter, and he had 2 sons. One of them was Menashe, horrific. But
All the people was dead.
those, because Hashem killed them. They wanted to come destroy Jerusalem, and they had the king of Israel was so righteous. You know, when we are so righteous, you don't have to fight. Hashem kills for you.
Okay.
You know, it happens to even in 6-day war, Yom Kippur, even this in Simchat Torah that happened. You know, they were supposed to come from every direction. Millions should have died. Imagine if Hamas had Hezbollah, have the Iranian from Syria and from Jordan, Turkey and Egypt. You know what? This is right now. Egypt putting together so many like unbelievable divisions in Sinai, right? Masiach is here. We're coming. This is the end of days. All right. So we said Sancherib and all that. Of course, that was in the year 3059. And then in 3133, Yirmiyahu Hanavi. Jeremiah, by the way, 40 years before the destruction of the second temple. Right? We said that originally there was the first temple, King Solomon, for 410 years. Then there was 70 years exile, right? With 52 years in Babylonia, Iraq of today, plus the 18 years of Persia, right? The Hashverosh and Esther, that all happened within the 70 years, okay? The 18 years, really. And then Yirmiyahu, before the second temple, 40 years before, comes and tell the people, stop. The Hashem will destroy the second temple. Stop. 40 years. They used to make fun of him, right? You know who was his son? Yecheskel. Yecheskel was his son. By the way, Yirmiyahu, Yecheskel, and 6 other prophets, you know who were their parents? Who were the grandparents, I should say. Shaul and Rachav. Shaul married at Rachav Azona, right? You heard of Rachav? She was a madam, right, of Jericho. But she, Yoshua. Sorry, thank you. Yoshua, when he came to conquer the land of Israel, he sent 2 spies, and she saved them. And she make a deal with them, says, I save you, but you save me and my family. They thought maybe she had 3, 4, 250 people. So she said, I know Hashem, I know Adonai, right? And she married to Mary and do tshuva, such tshuva, from hell will come 8 prophets and 8 Kohanim. Jeremiah is from them. Yoshua and Rachav and Yecheskel. So 40 years, the Arizal HaKadosh, you know, Arizal was in the Neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu. He wrote in Sha'ar HaGilgulim, the Arizal has a book called The Gates of Reincarnations. It says Yirmiyahu was King Solomon trying to come to save his own temple, right? Fighting for 40 years.
So Yirmiyahu was also taken to Babel.
Yes, Yirmiyahu and Babel and all that, they were Mordechai, Yehudi, they're all taken to Babel. In the first temple, by the way, Yecheskel and all of them lived in a city called Tel Aviv in Babel. The first Tel Aviv is not in Israel. It's in Babel.
But that's Hebrew name.
Yes, Tel Aviv.
As Babel.
So why? Because there's a Tel, the mountain, there will be freedom from it, right? The Aviv, we came out of Egypt in Aviv, right? To the Aviv. Aviv in Gematria is 15. There'll be also another coming out from Babel to go build the temple, right? So Yirmiyahu, as we said, he was in 3133 to the Jewish count, And of course, the destruction of Bet HaMikdash, as we said in Bavel, that happened in 3174. And then Shivat Zion, you heard of Shivat Zion? Koresh was actually the son of Esther and Achashverosh. Mordechai married Esther and he gave her divorce. She married the king, Achashverosh. They had a son, Koresh. Koresh sent them to build the Bet HaMikdash. It says in the Megillah of Pesach, right? And also in Divrei Hayamim. So Koresh, it's called Shivat Zion. It says he returned them 32:21. Hatzarat Koresh. You heard of the Yeah. Hatzarat Koresh is the proclamation of Koresh that says, go build the temple.
So Koresh is allowed for a Jew to be called Koresh?
Of course. There's many Persian Koresh.
Yeah, Persian.
Yes. Yeah, he sent to build the second temple, and he sent a lot of the Jews that were, in his kingship back with money and gold and everything they need. Quickly, we go through it. Chanukat Bet HaMikdash Hasheni, the second temple, is built in 3245. And as we know, the whole story of Megillat Esther, as we say, happened in those 18 years before the second temple. Mordechai Yehudi, just so you know, Haman was his slave. Haman and Mordechai were ministers of wars for the king of Bavel. Okay? Originally, they went to war against India. India did not want to be part of the Babylonian. That's why the Megillah says, Mehodu ve'at Kush. Hodu is India. They did not want to succumb to be part of the Babylonian. So he sent Mordechai and Haman to fight them. Haman ran out of money, no food for his soldiers. Soldiers wanted to kill him. So he comes to Mordechai, give us food. Mordechai was very smart, Jewish, doesn't sweat, like a good CPA. Slowly. Haman says, Mordechai said, how much do you need? He said, listen, in order for me to give you, you have to be my servant. And they signed an agreement. That's why Mordechai never bowed to him, because he was a servant. The shoe that Vashti hit Haman with, on the shoe there was the agreement between Mordechai and Haman. He says, what are you, Haman? You're a slave. My father, right? And anyway, so let's continue. And then that's happened, Megillat Esther is 3278. And then, of course, then come the Targum HaShivim. As we know, there was the king Talmai that wanted to translate the Torah, and he gathered 70 Rabbanim, each in own place, and didn't tell them about the other. Said, write to me the Torah in Greek. And they all made the same mistake, 24 mistakes on purpose in different places. All right, and then after that, as we know, came Platon. You heard of Platon? Right, philosopher, he was a mathematician, philosopher, all that. As we know, this all happened in this time after the destruction of the temple. And then, of course, then we have Alexander the Great and Merd Hashmonaim, the Hashmonaim that start fighting the Greeks. That happened in 3593, almost 4,000 to the Jewish count. They were fighting. The first Hashmonaim was not in Jerusalem, in Beitar. Beitar, we have Beitar, Modi'in, all this area. That was the Hashmonaim. That's where the Judah, and all of them. But the word Hashmonaim is the secret of Hanukkah. Chamesh and Shmone, right? There's 8 candles and 5 sons. Chamesh and Shmone. Hashmonaim, right? Yochanan, Kohen Gadol, Uvanav, the 5 kids. All right. So let's continue. And then, of course, then we have the taking over back of the temple. The whole story of Hanukkah happened 213 years into the second temple. Okay? So we have Purim happen, as we know, in Bavel, in Persia. And then the Hanukkah story, 213 years, where the Greeks controlled Jerusalem and Israel, the 6th Antiochus. And we're going to continue. Herodes, as we know, Herodes, by the way, I don't know if you know Herodes, he came to very, very much destroy Jerusalem. He killed all the tzaddikim in Jerusalem, destroyed the temple. Originally killed 70 tzaddikim, except one. He left one of them. His name Rabbi Bota. He was blind. And then he came to the jail and he said, Rabbi Bota, curse the king. Look what he did to Jerusalem. Herod's king, curse him. For a week, he said, no, if somebody, Hashem sends somebody, we cannot curse them. This is what Hashem wants. He says, I'm the king. He said, I know. He said, what should I do? I want to fix what I did. I'm sorry. He says, you have to restore all the tzaddikim and make the temple better. The temple originally was on a mountain. He built the whole area around it. That was Herod's. Okay? He actually, some said at the end he converted. Okay? He converted and he tried to marry one of the daughter of the Hashmonaim, and she committed suicide. Because you say, I'm a family of royalty. And she would not be with him. On the wedding night, she killed herself, jumped from the walls and wrote.
Is that Miriam or somebody?
No, another daughter of the Hashmonaim, of the Mishpacha of the Hashmonaim. Okay? And then come the Roman. As we know, the second temple is built, as with this we just said, with Herods and of course the tzaddikim that came from Israel, from Babel and Iran and Persia. And come, as we know, this Herods was 3723 to the Jewish count. And then we have Jesus born. You heard of Joshua?
Yes.
It was a Jew reform, right? The Gemara says that he actually was what we call Torah light. He didn't want to keep all the mitzvot. He just separated himself. Jesus and Christianity, 392 years different. The first Christianity, Constantinus and his mother. Nothing to do with Jesus. Nothing to do with Jesus. Jesus said in his words, I'm not here coming to change the Torah. No. So if anybody believes in Jesus, they should really keep the Torah. Right? My wife has a joke. Can I tell them? You know, the Christians celebrate Jesus when? The birth of Jesus?
25th.
Christmas, right? The 25th. 25th of December. How long is pregnancy?
9 months.
9 months. Gematria, herayon, in Hebrew, herayon, pregnancy is 271. So if you go from the birth to what we call backward, 271 days, it's exactly April Fool's Day.
Yasher Kollel.
All right, so we'll continue with this. All right, so basically, we are today, I'm finished with that. We are in Israel today. And this is really the end of days. Because, you know, Hashem will always bring us to Israel for one purpose. To build the Mikdash, to be able to, to be able to restore the glory of Hashem. Hashem want to reside with us, right? Not just in the heavens, right? As my wife says, don't have too much balagan. You know what's balagan came from? The word is from Russian. It's not Hebrew. Balagan is a Russian word. Yes. All right.
How you say balagan in Russian?
You heard of bardak?
Yes.
It's also Russian. Yes. Tohu vavohu. In the Torah, say balagan is tohu vavohu. Right? You know, there's a lot of mess, but tohu is look, uvohu, see what's the purpose. Look into it and see how to place it. So, Bezat Hashem, I want to thank you all for being with us. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Rabbi,
Yes, sir.
where did all of the gold and silver